It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the university where life and learning meet for Mayor Coleman's 2017 budget address. At Metropolitan State, we deeply appreciate the many chances we have to partner with the City of St. Paul as we extend higher education opportunities in and around the most livable city in America. And if you have any question, look out the window. Metropolitan State currently serves over 11,500 students across the metro region throughout Minnesota and online. On a weekly basis, there are about 12,000 students attending class here in the Dayton's Bluff area, at our Midway site, at St. Paul College, and in other community locations. That means about 6,000 individuals who are learning in St. Paul every week. We focus on offering extraordinary baccalaureate completion programs to students who have begun college elsewhere, especially at our strategic partners, the 10 community and technical colleges that are located around the Twin Cities. We also offer master's and applied doctoral programs for adult students who seek to realize their highest career aspirations. Many of our students do end up working or living in St. Paul, further contributing to our city's vitality. Our university values reciprocal and mutually beneficial engagement with our community, and we're very active on the East Side and throughout St. Paul. Our student body also reflects the rich diversity of the metropolitan area. Our recently admitted students have an average age of 28, and nearly 40% are students of color. We are proud that we are able to serve the educational needs of the next generation of Minnesotans. I would like to extend a special welcome to those elected officials and other public leaders who are in attendance today. Councilmember Rebecca Naker, Councilmember Dai Tao, Councilmember Chris Tolbert, Councilmember Amy Brendmoen, Councilmember Jane Prince. We know Councilmember Dan Bostrom would like to be here. He's a great friend of the university, but he is currently recovering from an illness, and so we wish him well. Deputy Mayor Kristen Beckman, St. Paul Chief of Police Todd Axtell, we are very proud to call an alumnus, St. Paul Fire Chief Tim Butler, Superintendent Valeria Silva, St. Paul Chamber of Commerce President Matt Kramer, and Lori Lauder, St. Paul Port Authority. Finally, I have to give a special shout out to Kathy Lantry, who represented our area for so many years and is now the Director of Public Works. It is now my pleasure to introduce the President of the St. Paul City Council, the Honorable Russ Stark. I get to say a few words about you, Russ. Councilmember Stark represents St. Paul's 4th Ward and lives in the Hamlin Midway neighborhood. Russ Stark was raised in Nevada and earned a bachelor's degree at Swarthmore College, followed by a master's in urban affairs and public policy from the University of Delaware. He finally landed in the right place. He has a long and varied history as an urban community organizer, addressing issues of community health, environmental advocacy, and in St. Paul, transit-oriented development, economic development, and community-based planning, as well as directing the Midway Transportation Management Organization. Russ has served on the St. Paul City Council since 2008, and it currently serves as council president. Please welcome City Council President Russ Stark.
Well, if you wouldn't mind please standing for the presentation of the colors, and then we will have local artist and soon-to-be nationally renowned artist Ashley DuBose with a rendition of the national anthem.
What so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ran glad, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, in the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Well, thank you to Ashley DuBose for that wonderful rendition of the national anthem. Ashley is from here in St. Paul and a West Sider, as I understand it. And thank you to President Arthur for welcoming us here today and for that great introduction of myself. On behalf of my colleagues on the St. Paul City Council, I want to welcome you to Mayor Chris Coleman's 2017 budget address. A city budget, how we spend public resources and how we raise the funds to do it, is a reflection of what we value for our community. Public safety and public infrastructure are far and away the areas where the City of St. Paul spends the majority of your taxes and fees. In St. Paul, we're emerging from a recession and in the midst of our biggest population growth spurt in decades. Budgeting for 2017 begs several questions. How do we continue to fund high-quality services in a growing community? How do we balance continued investment in aging infrastructure with the need to build new infrastructure in the growth areas of our city? How are we responding to changing demographics, technology, and expectations of city residents, businesses, and visitors? And how do we continue to make progress on racial equity here in St. Paul? Each year, the council holds budget meetings all fall, with the first one being tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We hear about and grapple with the mayor's proposed budgets for each city department. There's honestly no better way to learn more about what the city does and how that is changing than to sit in on our 2-hour-long budget sessions most Wednesday mornings between now and Thanksgiving. And I invite each one of you to join us in the hearing room on the 3rd floor of City Hall any of those Wednesdays. You've come here today to hear the mayor's 2017 budget address. Without further ado, it's my great honor to introduce our mayor, Chris Coleman.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Russ, I will agree that sitting through council sessions on budget is a great way to learn about the budget. Cure insomnia. It's all good. Thank you so much, Russ. Thank you for your leadership. To our council members, so appreciative of your work. Other elected officials that are joining us here today. Ashley, wonderful. Thank you so much. I've seen her video, Ashley. It is awesome. If you haven't seen her video, you got to go on it. It's got some great scenes of St. Paul. It's good to see that. I've given 11 budget addresses now, including today's, and I've done it in fire stations, in parking lots, and in any number of places. I will guarantee you I have not given a budget address in as beautiful a place as we are in today. And I want to thank President Arthur so much for your hospitality and allowing us to be in this spectacular space. I also want to just thank Metropolitan State's partnership in building St. Paul's economy. We are really preparing our citizens to take their place in a 21st century economy. And I want to extend a warm welcome not just to the city council members, to my department directors, each and every one of you who work so hard, our legislative delegation, but really to the entire community who is working so hard on behalf of the city of St. Paul. You know, just recently I had an opportunity to tour the Eastside Enterprise Center just over on East 7th and Margaret. It opened 2 years ago, and it's already a bustling, it's bustling with important work of building a neighborhood economy. It has many partners, including the Latino Economic Development Corporation, the Neighborhood Development Corporation, and a dozen others, working with immigrant entrepreneurs, finding the training and financing to support opening businesses throughout the East Side. Businesses such as Urban Oasis, the Hmong Farmers, and Urban Roots. They're leading an the work of building an economic sector around growing, preparing, and distributing healthy food. Beyond the specific activities, I came away really impressed by the power of the idea. The Eastside Enterprise Center anchors a new narrative about the East Side. It's grounded not in the losses of the past 40 years, but in the entrepreneurial opportunities being seized by people who know they can eliminate income and economic disparities by starting and growing their own businesses, employing their neighbors, and supporting one another. Here on the banks of the Mississippi, they, like generations before them, are drawing inspiration from one of the world's great rivers. Rather than waiting for value to trickle down to them, they, like the tiny stream pushing through the headwaters, are claiming their own power and rushing headlong towards the ocean, gathering steam as they go. It's great to be here in the company of those who are building the future for St. Paul. Since the beginning of my administration, we have focused on offering fiscally balanced, sustainable budgets for the long term. No gimmicks, no accounting tricks. My guiding principle since day one has been to build a rock-solid financial foundation for the capital city by meeting ongoing expenses with ongoing revenues and prudently applying one-time money to one-time strategic investments. Adhering to these principles has helped us preserve a AAA bond rating, maintain and even enhance services, and in 2015, make the largest local investment in street repair and infrastructure in the history of the city. Our commitment to fiscal prudence has allowed us to meet unexpected expenses without wild fluctuations in basic services. For example, a decade ago, we didn't know that an invasive beetle would threaten our population of emerald ash trees. But try as we might to reverse the impact of the ash borer, we are facing a situation where we will lose 35,000 trees over the next 10 years. These trees provide a needed tree canopy over our neighborhoods and combat the negative effects of climate change. We didn't plan for this crisis, but we have to respond to it by replacing dying trees with new ones. That's why we've identified in the 2017 budget over $1.7 million to head off this emerging crisis and invest in our best resource for building a sustainable city, our trees. More recently, the city has incurred extraordinary costs as a result of ongoing protests in the wake of Philando Castillo's death in Falcon Heights. As the capital city, we understand that many will choose to exercise their First Amendment rights within our borders. But we also know that the cost of ensuring public safety during these protests is significant. Since July 6th, St. Paul has incurred nearly $2 million in protest-related costs. While we will certainly seek and hope to receive assistance for these costs from state or federal sources, we must have the necessary cash flow to cover them in the short term. Had we not adhered to our fund balance policy over these last many years, we would likely be facing reduced operations at some of our core city facilities. No one that has ever sat through a budget address that I have given has gone away without hearing about local government aid. No speech would be complete without a discussion of local government aid, or LGA. Just to remind everyone, the city will receive nearly $11 million less in LGA than the certified amount in 2003. Adjusted for inflation, that is nearly $45 million less than we would have received before massive state cuts to the aid. And that tally assumes a $3 million bump in LGA next year as part of an omnibus tax bill that passed the House and Senate. Unfortunately, there was an error in that bill that needs to be fixed before the governor will sign it. Like St. Paul, cities across Minnesota need a special session to address the tax bill. In fact, the budget I present today assumes that the legislature will act soon. If they do not, the budget will have to be amended to either increase the proposed levy, decrease critical public services, or, most likely, a combination of the two. I urge legislative leadership and the governor to support a special session and to address this critical issue for cities across the state of Minnesota. This proposed 2017 budget is based on the following principles: maintaining our longstanding commitment to good financial stewardship, strengthening our economy and growing jobs, and promoting equity for all residents. On the heels of 11 straight years of financial challenges through which we've innovated and cut, increased revenue, and rethought service delivery, we once again face nearly an $11 million pressure in inflationary pressures. As in the past, this budget balances reasonable increases in levy and fees while restraining cost growth in existing services. But most importantly, it maintains our commitment to first-rate city services and an unwavering determination to assure St. Paul's place as one of the great cities of North America. For 2017, I'm proposing a general fund budget of $266 million and an overall budget of $562 million, an increase of 2.4% over the 2016 adopted budget. The budget is assuming, again, the additional $3 million in local government aid, includes modest growth in the property tax levy of 4.0%, which is only half of the robust 7.9% growth in our tax base, and will actually result in a decreasing property tax rate for 2017. St. Paul has never been stronger and more vibrant than it is today. The other day, I toured an old warehouse on Pryor just north of University Avenue. I had heard about this funky, artist-inspired mini golf course at Can Wonderland, wondering why I didn't have other things to do other than tour a mini golf course. But what I didn't know was that Orton Development, the team behind the project, is fast creating one of the hippest destinations for entrepreneurs in this region. Blackstack Brewery and Vestibule are two of the companies that are already in the space. And as tens of thousands of additional square feet open up in this building alone, they will provide professional homes to creative entrepreneurs and tech companies and other startups fueled by a culture of daring innovation. Combine this with what is happening at places like Lake Monster and Vandalia Towers and the old Woolworths building in downtown, you can begin to see how the Green Line is doing its job of bringing creative people to the table to breathe new vibrancy into the heart of the city. And of course, imagine, if you can, the reinvigorated Midway Shopping Center, anchored by a new soccer stadium. As we saw just last week, with 63,000 people attending last week's game. Minnesota loves soccer. But beyond the excitement of the game is, of course, the great opportunity to have it serve as a catalyst for redeveloping that key intersection. Last November, 21 community members began participating in a citizen advisory committee, carefully mapping out the potential for that site as part of a master planning process. Combined with 3 public open houses, an online forum for input, and public hearings with the Planning Commission and the City Council, we've had a robust conversation about the future of that site. In just a week, the City Council will vote on the master plan and the soccer stadium site. But right now I want to pause and thank the members of the Citizen Advisory Committee and their co-chairs, Julie Padilla and Eric Moho, for their leadership as we seize this incredible opportunity. Many things have contributed to the resurgence of our city. Our commitment to the arts, a vibrant cultural scene, a strong city services including a 21st century recycling program, significant infrastructure investments, strong neighborhoods throughout, a focus on bringing energy and planning resources to redevelopment opportunities like the Ford site, new bike pathways, new businesses, and improved transit options. Whether you're taking a game in at the Saint Stadium, eating at a restaurant in Little Mekong, attending a performance at Penumbra Theater, or paddleboarding on Como Lake, the dynamism in our city is visible in every single neighborhood. Our diversity is an asset that brings vitality and makes us the most livable city in America. But now we must become the most workable city. Everything that we have done has set the stage for future growth in St. Paul. While we will soon have one of the highest populations in the history of our city, we must remember we are no one's bedroom community. We must seize the momentum that we have created and do for business what we have done for residents. Several years ago, a task force of Greater MSP and headed by Ecolab CEO Doug Baker mapped out how to stimulate business growth in downtown. The report suggested that we focus first on housing, lead with vibrancy, and then businesses would follow. Certainly, we've seen that come true in companies like accounting firm Redpath, which opened its second location in downtown St. Paul, and in 3 Deep Marketing, a company that has chosen to invest in a creative office space in downtown, quickly growing from less than 20 to nearly 50 employees. But recent announcements about 2 employers departing for neighboring communities, Cray and the app maker When I Work, give us pause. In talking to representatives from both companies, it was clear that the decision to leave was not because they didn't want to be in St. Paul. In fact, quite the opposite was true. Rather, the problem was the inability to find the quality and the quantity of the space that they needed. We need an inventory of all available space across the city. We need to make sure that those spaces meet the needs of our 21st century entrepreneurs. Then we need to aggressively market those opportunities here in St. Paul. And where possible, we need to bring new buildings online with an eye towards increasing our workforce in the city of St. Paul. Just this past week, I welcomed to 3 Deep Marketing's Lower Town office more than 20 entrepreneurs from 11 startup companies visiting from all across the globe. They were excited about the opportunities in St. Paul. We need to double down on those sorts of efforts that will bring these companies to our community. We need to make sure that we have the spaces and develop those spaces to attract this city, to make this city a place that is attractive to those companies, where they will incubate and they'll grow. To help do this, our Planning and Economic Development Department, under the direction of Jonathan Sage Martinson, has grown its economic development team by 30% over the last 2 years. Our goal is to focus even more of our efforts on business expansion and retention. Additionally, we're working with key partners who share a common mission to ensure we remain competitive, including Greater MSP, as we partner on the Central City Competitive Initiative, aimed at economic development specifically in the cities of St. Paul and in Minneapolis. 10 years ago, it was hard to imagine the vibrancy that we see now in our downtown. But today, it's not hard to imagine that with determination and focus, we will see similar success in our business community across the city of St. Paul. As we know, the economy of the Twin Cities is one of the strongest in the nation. With a diverse set of sectors and industries, we rebounded from the recession in strong shape. According to the Pew Research Center, our metropolitan area has a smaller percentage of low-income adults than many other metropolitan areas in this country. Yet even as we celebrate this success, our middle class actually shrank between 2000 and 2014. And when we layer this widening income gap over racial disparities that plague our community, we understand that our response to strengthening the middle class must include racial equity at the center of our work. So as we grow our economy, we must make sure that we do it in a way that benefits all in this region. That's why I'm announcing today that we're committing to increasing the number of jobs in the city of St. Paul by 3,000 over the next 3 years. This will include a specific focus on job creation in areas of high concentrations of poverty and diversity. We must reduce the large employment gap between white people and people of color if we're going to have a sustainable and strong economy in the city of St. Paul. To support this goal, my 2017 budget includes a new job opportunity fund, seeded with $2 million from the sale of the Penfield. This will enable us to target business investment opportunities tied to job creation in areas of the city that most need it. Whether you're a small business along East 7th Street looking to expand, or a new restaurant going into Rice Street, this fund will offer a mix of public loans and grants to those who can help us grow good paying jobs. We're also recommitting to strategies that spark small business development and growth, including the Neighborhood Star program, which will be funded at $1.9 million, and the Commercial Vitality Zone initiative that we began in 2015. With another year of investing $750,000 in the Commercial Vitality Zone, we'll spur private development and accelerate projects and businesses across every district in the city. You may remember that during my State of the City address this last spring, I shared with you our goal of making sure that the city's workforce reflects the communities we serve, and my desire to employ in the city workforce 40% people of color. To make progress towards that goal, we need to literally put our money where our mouth is. We have increased funding in the 2017 budget for the Human Resources Department by $140,000 to recruit and retain more employees of color. We're investing in another class of fire medic cadets to increase diversity in the St. Paul Fire Department. And we'll continue to grow our Human Rights and Equal Economic Opportunity Department. We'll use our power as an employer to move more people of color into the middle class by using the city's considerable purchasing power to ensure contractors meet affirmative action and vendor outreach program goals. In addition to growing jobs, we must remain steadfast in our efforts to create the workforce needed to support our current and future economy. This is borne out in the state demographer's warning earlier this year that the decade following 2019 is likely to see some of the biggest challenges to our labor supply due to the state's aging population. Here at Metropolitan State University, building talent and creating pipelines to good jobs are the core of the mission. More than 38% of the Metropolitan State student population includes people of color. 64% attend school part-time, ensuring that they can earn a paycheck even as they go back to school to learn a trade or earn a degree. Our strong state community and technical college system here in the Twin Cities and across Minnesota is key to ensuring we can meet our goals of strengthening and growing the middle class. Because whether you're a military veteran in St. Paul pursuing a new career in the construction trades, or an underemployed miner on the range seeking to go into law enforcement, perhaps a farmer in Austin looking to secure your business with 21st century technologies, we're in this together, and we must continue to ensure education and job training and retraining remain a possibility for everyone in our communities. This past year, I had several opportunities to tour amazing outreach and apprenticeship programs led by some of our key building trades partners. From a Kids Build series to a union job and resource fair to an apprenticeship graduation. This past legislative session, we worked alongside the St. Paul Building and Construction Trades to secure $2 million in funding for the Construction Careers Pathway Initiative. Programs like these help young adults, including young women and people of color, choose careers in the trades. And of course, getting a young person their first work experience continues to be a key to their future success. That's why I'm pleased to announce that Right Track, our highly successful workplace readiness initiative, will continue to receive full funding in my 2017 budget. This summer, over 600 St. Paul young people were connected with summer jobs and internships through Right Track, and more than 90% of them were people of color. This includes more than 150 advanced internships made possible by returning employers like Xcel Energy, who increased their commitment to Right Track, as well as new employers like Regions Hospital, Health East, and Securian Financial, who joined us to make sure that St. Paul's young people have meaningful early job experiences that, when combined with a strong education, can show them there is a realistic pathway into the middle class. We also boast about our nationally recognized parks and library system. My budget will continue to fund our out-of-school time learning that reach thousands of children, igniting their creativity and imagination through programs like Summer Blast, Summer Spark, STEM, and Maker Camps. And recognizing that St. Paulites are lifelong learners, my budget will also fund workforce training, digital literacy programming, and enriching programs for older adults. 10 years ago, we opened up the new Rondo Library at University in Dale. At the time, it was an innovative facility that combined housing and community meeting space and library services. It remains the most visited library in the city system. However, after 10 years of use, it needs investment to keep up with current demands by library patrons. In this budget, I'm pleased to announce a $500,000 one-time investment in this jewel of the Rondo community in my 2017 budget to redesign the space to better support our Homework Help Center. It will build a designated area for children and for teen readers. I present this budget at a time unlike any other in my tenure as mayor. Important national conversations about the future of our country are being drowned out by bombast posing as political dialogue, particularly from one of our presidential candidates. The events surrounding the deaths of Philando Castillo in Falcon Heights and the police officers in Dallas and Baton Rouge have affected all of us, churning emotions and challenging beliefs. As the capital city, our officers are facilitating largely peaceful protests. But the insulting taunts directed towards officers on the streets, combined with the vile racist comments directed at protesters online, fuel a narrative that we are a deeply divided community, divided in a way that we cannot overcome. In one of the most amazing sermons I've ever witnessed, Reverend Steve Daniels spoke at the funeral for Philando Castillo. I listened as Reverend Daniels called upon us to come together. He said that unity is imperative to our survival, and I couldn't agree more. For me, one of the most moving images of the past month was a photograph taken by Twin Cities photographer Ben Garvin. As Philando Castillo's horse-drawn casket passed by, a St. Paul police officer bowed his head, clasped his hands, and stood silently in prayer on the side of the road. We have so much more that unites us than divides us. We must stop talking past one another. We must walk that mile in each other's shoes and lead the way by finding a common path and remembering our common purpose. Here in St. Paul, we are leading the way. We're leading the way by continuing to build strong relationships between the community and those individuals sworn to protect and serve. Police Chief Axtell has long been a champion of engaging the community. And when he interviewed for the job as police chief, he talked about his vision for creating a community engagement unit. I'm pleased to announce today that we will make that vision a reality in 2017. My budget will fund 3 new full-time community engagement staff members to build true partnerships with communities of color. Combined with a $500,000 grant from the Bremer Trust, this unit will continue to lead the way by ensuring thousands more children participate in our Police Athletic League, initiatives like the East and West African Junior Police Academy, and our Safe Summer Nights program, which has served nearly 4,000 meals and brought thousands of community members into conversation and fellowship with the police officers in the city throughout the parks across the city of St. Paul. Participating in Safe Summer Nights is one of my favorite things to do all year. I really want to thank those that have made this possible, particularly Dan Reardon of the Bremer Trust, the hundreds of volunteers who have helped with activities and serving meals, and the members of the Safe Summer Nights Board, including directors Tom Campion, Bob Stupka, Jim Miley, Pete Orpit, and Kevin Moore. Let's give them a round of applause for their leadership. With our continued support, we'll deepen the foundations of trust and the interest in law enforcement careers among communities of color. We're leading the way in St. Paul with an unwavering commitment to public safety, including efforts to reduce gun violence. There continues to be too many guns in too many hands of people too willing to use them to settle minor beefs. Already this year, there have been 135 assaults and 9 homicides in the city of St. Paul with firearms. After 2 people were shot and killed at Indian Mounds Park in April, we came together as a community to face down this ongoing threat. The proposed budget delivers on the promise I made that day to add 5 additional officers to the department, bringing the sworn complement to a historic 620, up from 576 officers when I became mayor over a decade ago. But we also know that officers alone can't address the challenges that we face. That's why this budget will make permanent $150,000 in ongoing yearly funding to have community ambassadors on the street. We've also identified an additional $50,000 in one-time funding to bring the total spending for the ambassadors program to $200,000 in 2017. The ambassadors work directly with our officers to divert the youth in our city from risky behaviors and connect them with jobs and programming at our libraries and our recreation centers. Recently, Chief Axtell and I had the opportunity to talk with President Obama about the success of our ambassadors program. During the first year of our ambassadors program, we saw an approximately 30% reduction in crime in the geographic areas where the ambassadors were working. Just as the federal government has provided tremendous resources for us to hire officers, I hope one day a similar program will help cities across America hire ambassadors to work with our youth before police intervention is necessary. But we can only do this work together, in true partnership. I want to thank the leaderships of this community, the leadership of the NAACP, the African American Leadership Council, the Black Ministerial Alliance, and the God Squad, for their continued support of the city efforts to get guns off the street and redirect youth into positive activities. We're also leading the way in terms of training. Following a model established with the Department of Justice and the Seattle Police Department, every officer in the City of St. Paul Police Department received training during the past year on race equity. They received training on bias and institutional racism. They received training in de-escalation techniques, and this training will continue in 2017 under this budget. Of course, one of the major pillars of public safety is our fire department. Our commitment to first-class safety in fire and EMS remains steadfast. Our firefighters and paramedics work hard year-round to keep our residents safe. My 2017 budget will ensure that our fire department remains at 114 average daily staffing. We've also identified one-time money to purchase new emergency vehicles and make sure our fleet is safe and up to the job when needed. While I'm proud of the investments that we continue to make in our fire department, the creation of the Firefighter Health and Wellness Pilot Program is one of the most important. Last year, we lost 2 of our St. Paul firefighters, Shane Clifton and Jason Woodbury. As a result of those potentially preventable deaths, Deputy Mayor Beckman and Council President Russ Stark convened a task force to review measures that could be taken to make sure that our firefighters have the physical and mental health necessary to do the job. Based on the recommendations of that task force, we're investing $200,000 in one-time money in a pilot project that is really an investment in the men and women of our department so that we can count on them in our most terrible moments in our lives. We're also engaged in ongoing conversations about how to improve response times in EMS service. Calls for service are up, but our outcomes remain among the best in the nation. Residents and guests in our city receive first-class fire suppression service and high-quality health care from our first responders and paramedics. But to better determine how and where fire department resources should go, the 2017 budget has $100,000 in one-time money for a full analysis of key data to be led by Deputy Mayor Beckman and our innovations team. Of course, they'll be supported by key personnel in the St. Paul Fire Department. While the scope of the analysis is to be finalized in the coming months, The team will likely explore demographic and population shifts in the city, first responder response times, outcomes for patient care, fleet and facility needs, and resource deployment. The result will be a better strategic foundation for making future investment decisions in the St. Paul Fire Department. Folks, the budget I present today builds on the progress of this last decade, but it also recognizes that our work is not done. The success that we see today in St. Paul didn't happen overnight. Like the waters of the Mississippi that persist over miles and over generations, we're on a journey. And as we reflect on our community's centuries-long obstacles to equity and to building a strong economy that brings more people into the middle class, let us not lose hope in the face of our ongoing struggle. Let's take heart in our ability to come together as a community, to stay in dialogue, and to push one another toward a common vision and a shared future. Let us persist together. That is the St. Paul way. That is what we build on together. Thank you very much.